Hey guys, I'm back inside again because outside is just miserable. And today we're going to be doing a little review of something supplied by one of the viewers of the channel, which is pretty cool. To start out though, a lot of shout outs that people have requested. And look, you know, this goes back and forth in the comment section. I'm happy to do it. If you guys watch the channel and you support this channel and you just want, you know, to hear your name in a video, I have no problem with that, despite what anybody else says. So, working through the list today, shout outs to number one, Fun Games, who was one of the very first people to ask me for a shout out, and I kept forgetting to put his shout out in, and I feel really bad because I know I did it. I can't figure out what video it's in or if it's in one of the other ones that's in production. But so Fun Games, you've been very patient, and I'm sorry I've forgotten to give you your shout out in video after video. So there's one for you. Also, Changemaker, Vance Powell, Roman and Jaden, Crazy Taxi 999, DP539. That's one of the longest YouTube handles I've ever seen. And then finally, Ninja Diffuser 610's dog, who doesn't have a name yet but just celebrated a birthday. So we're going to give a little shout out to the puppy there because we love dogs on this channel. So if I haven't gotten to you and your name's on my list, you will get your shout out. It's just I can only do so many per video, otherwise the whole video would be shout outs. But thanks all of you guys for watching the videos, commenting on the videos, and supporting the channel. I appreciate you all. So let's get into this. Today we're going to be looking at the Lightning X Individual First Aid Trauma and Hemorrhage Control Kit. This is the IFAK Pouch Value Edition is what they call this thing. This comes to us from Skylar, who wanted just my opinion on what comes in it. He wanted me to take a look at it, so he sent me this so we could all kind of see what comes in this package and talk about it. This pouch is very, very similar to exactly what people are issued downrange. So just a little summary. Every service does it differently, and you guys who are familiar with the channel know that I started my military career as a combat medic in the Army, and it's always near and dear to my heart, and it's one of the best jobs in the entire world you could ever have. One of the greatest advances in technology and stuff that the United States military has made has been in medical care. And you know, if you look at like the statistics from Vietnam to today's war, the survival rate of somebody wounded in the field just is exponentially higher than it was. And a lot of it has to do with our ability to transport casualties to like an advanced care facility, you know, like a battalion aid station at the lowest level, and then up to a full combat support hospital, and even, you know, a fixed hospital outside of the theater of operations, outside of the AOR. But equipping the troops to care for their own wounds, their own injuries, primarily in the field, and training each other to take care of each other. Like Combat Lifesaver is now a qualification that so many people get. And back when I was a medic, it didn't even exist. There was basic first aid, and most people didn't even have to take that. Nowadays, everybody that deploys, in addition to their, you know, other load-carrying equipment, their plate carrier for body armor, they're issued an individual first aid kit, which has some really cool advanced stuff. So this is not the actual military issue one, but this is very, very similar to the pouch that the individual first aid kit current issue comes in. I'm pretty sure Skylar got this one off of Amazon, he told me. It's listed at $39.99. Now there's a couple different ones if you're looking at this. The Lightning X series has a bunch of different first aid kits. And in their IFAK series kit, they range in price, and the difference is the addition of stuff like Quick Clot. Let's go over some dimensions, and I know you guys like the text on the video, so I'll put the text in so you can see it. But the kit itself, it's 8 inches high, 6.5 inches wide, and 3 inches deep, which is a nice sized kit. So you could put a lot of other stuff in here too if you don't want to use this particular bag just for your first aid supplies. It's all MOLLE compatible, of course, so it comes with the straps, but you can also use all this webbing to secure it just about any way you want. You can put carry straps on the top. It doesn't come with straps, but you could put it on there, and it's got a nice little sort of padded handle. Velcro patch area right on the front if you want to put a name patch on it so everybody knows whose is who. Another good rule of thumb, if you're out in the field, always trash your buddy's first aid kit before your own. So if you're giving self-aid buddy care to someone else, use their supplies, because you want to have your supplies if you get hurt. This one is the desert brown color. It also comes in black. It's the only 2 color options available from Amazon. I'm sure you can find this in OD green, you know, through other companies, multicam, ABU/ACU, lots of different camouflage options for this. but I'm just as happy to have just a single color. So the pouch itself is actually really high quality. It's really well made. Double stitching everywhere. It's really rugged. I've dealt with this company's products before. So in terms of the pouches they use, really, really good. Some of the stuff inside I'm not thrilled with, but we'll look at that when we get there. This particular kit is supposed to have some strings inside that help you hold it open at a 90-degree angle once you unzip it. But I'm going to tell you from experience that doesn't always work, and I haven't really checked this one out. But so technically what should happen now is we unzip these zippers, and this flap opens up and stays at a 90-degree angle so we can get to work on a casualty. Yeah, and that's kind of usually what happens. So these drawstrings have to be adjusted. They come in the kit, and it will work if you adjust the strings, and this one hasn't been adjusted, and that's not anybody's fault. If you don't know to do that, you don't know to do that. There's not an instruction kit that comes with this that tells you to do that. So if you haven't checked this out and rigged it up before you take it out into the field to use for whatever reason, backpacking, hiking, camping, actual military tactical use, you're gonna think you're gonna get that 90-degree shelf and all your stuff's gonna pour out if you're not careful. Contents are listed on Amazon. The first thing I want to do is take everything out of this kit so we can look at the interior features of the bag. If you look at the inside of this particular kit, things are pretty well organized. You've got one big pouch up top with the mesh and all these little elastic straps to hold different things in. On the flip side, you've got one big zippered pouch, and then you've got your elastic straps to hold other stuff. One thing that I would like to see in a kit like this that this one doesn't have is some kind of good weatherproofing on the inside, so that if you were to lay this down on the ground and it was wet or something like that, you wouldn't get all that coming up through the kit, but it doesn't have that. It does have some double padding on the bottom though to protect it. One of the things that I like to see in a first aid kit is a good solid knife. Nothing too big, nothing too fancy, because we don't know what's gonna happen to it. This kit doesn't come with one. It comes with trauma shears. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Skylar, the first thing I'm gonna put in this kit when I send it back to you is going to be a good, decent knife for you to carry in this kit. And the one I picked is one I've had for a while, and I actually did a video on a while ago, and I'll put the link to the video review in the description. This is a simple Cabela's Hunter's folding knife. The reason I'm putting this one in there is because it's got decent blade steel right there, but most importantly, it's a kind of a bright orange color, right? So people understand you whip out a knife, they're going to assume coming out of a first aid kit, orange or red brightly colored knives are usually associated with rescue, but it's got a really nice rubberized grip. So even if this thing gets wet or bloody, or, you know, something like that, you're still going to be able to maintain a pretty good grip on this knife. I was looking through the collection of which one I was going to put in here for you, and this one just sort of called out to me for a good first aid kit knife. So I'm putting this one in there for you so that you have this. And again, check out the video review. It's an older video. Something else I want to throw in there that I think a good first aid kit should have at all times, some 550 cord, because 550 cord is always useful for so many different reasons, whether you have to make a splint, or a litter, or you just need to tie a bandage on or make a tourniquet or something. So what I'm going to do is also put this in there for you, Skylar. If you guys all remember this came in a battle box. I wasn't really thrilled with it at the time because basically I have my bracelet that I wear all the time, but this is a cool bracelet. It's got a good amount of 550 cord in it, right? So you could take this apart if you need it. It also has a bottle opener on it in case you want a bottle opener, but rather than just putting a big spool of 550 cord, at least you can do some creative stuff with that too. Let's take a look at what comes in this first aid kit, and we'll make some other additions as we go. So to start off with, gloves. Cannot stress the importance of rubber gloves enough, and that's the kind of thing that in medic school, if you go through any of the practical exercises and you forget to put on your gloves, you will fail for that entire day. I don't know how many pairs of gloves this comes with, but it's the most simple step to protect yourself. Look, it could be your best friend, and you don't know what kind of nasty, germy things they have in their body. Maybe they don't even know. So we've got the gloves that come in the kit. I'm going to throw in 2 more pairs of large-sized nitrile gloves, right? So not latex, so you don't have to worry about a latex allergy. But yeah, you cannot have too many pairs of gloves in your kit. Those are in plastic and these are not, doesn't mean anything. This is not sterile packaging. It's just to keep it, contained. So here's 2 more pairs of gloves to go through. Comes with a little CPR mask with a one-way valve. Now, I don't want to open this up and ruin it, but having done CPR several times, gross, nasty, disgusting stuff, again, the human mouth is pretty dirty. And when somebody is having an airway problem, there's always the potential that whatever's blocking that airway is going to come up in your face. So for the addition of infection control and germs and stuff, You also want to use a CPR mask so you don't get a face full of puke, which I've seen happen. Thank God it's never happened to me, but it's happened to some friends of mine. It's not cool. So the CPR mask is really good to have. It comes with a tourniquet, which is one of the elastic types that I'm not a huge fan of. I would rather have more of a solid tourniquet because these things, you know, people can make mistakes with how tight they put these on, it being elastic and all. So this thing is almost idiot-proof, but, you know, we've got another cool saying in the Army, nothing is idiot-proof to a sufficiently talented idiot. So this is a good tourniquet. I might recommend picking up a one that's not elastic, though. I mean, this one will probably work for you. I like the non-elastic ones because there's no mistake with how much pressure you're putting on there. I've seen just once or twice in my career, but I've seen where somebody, you know, it's elastic, so they think it's stretched on a wound really good, but it's not, because it's elastic. It still has give in it. But this is a decent tourniquet, and it's got a mechanical device to help you get good, solid pressure. I'm not going to give first aid instruction in this video, by the way, because I don't want to open that can of worms. Make sure you're familiar with using all the items that come in your first aid kit. This says emergency high-strength pressure bandage, tourniquet style, but this is also what we call the Israeli combat bandage. It's a really great bandage, so it gives you everything all in one. It gives you a clean, sterile dressing. So a dressing is the thing that goes directly on the wound, right? And that's like what stops the bleeding. Then you've got the bandage part that secures the dressing to it, but this takes it a step further and it gives instructions to turn this into a tourniquet itself or a pressure bandage. So this is a really, really good tool to have. I don't know how much these things run, you know, on the outside world. Honestly, you can find them for all different prices, you know, different materials, but this is really great to have in an emergency kit. This is what we call 3x3 or 4x4 gauze. These ones happen to be 3x3. These are sterile, so you can open it up and put this directly on a wound and then wrap it. Personally, I think 2 is very optimistic for a trauma hemorrhagic kit. So I'm going to throw 3 more of these in here. The rules of trauma care is you can always put more dressings on. Once a dressing's on, you can't take it off because if the blood has started to clot, you don't want to rip that clot off with it. So I'm just going to add a few more 3x3 sterile dressings for you to use in your kits. So next we've got a hemostatic gauze dressing. This is almost like quick clot. This is not exactly quick clot because this doesn't get poured into a wound, but this is a dressing which has kind of like a layer of some of the very similar material to what makes quick clot work. You can pack this in a wound. Pretty good to have in a first aid kit. This can really help with bleeding. I want to take a step back and say I'm not advocating packing a wound unless you really know what you're doing, but you could put this over you know, a deep cut or something and it will really help facilitate clotting. I don't have an extra one to throw in there, or I would. Comes with a single combine pad, which is okay. This is just like a big, thick gauze pad. Sometimes we call these abdominal pads. Because of the nature of this first aid kit, I don't think you'll need more than one of these. This is also something it's sterile. It can be used for wound packing. It can be used as a big, thick dressing if you have a very heavy bleed. It can be folded over to double the thickness. So that's cool. Now this is a compressed crinkle gauze is what this is called, but basically this is vacuum sealed gauze folded over on itself. So you can use this, it's sterile, so you can use it directly on a wound or you can use it to wrap a wound up. So this is pretty cool to have, and the fact that it's, you know, vacuum sealed, really, you should see when this thing opens, it's a lot thicker than in the package. I'm going to throw in one more of these because I think you should have 2 of these just in case. One maybe to use as a dressing and then one to use as a bandage to go over it. It comes with one small roll of gauze. Now this is non-sterile, so this would be used for the bandage around the dressing. I'm going to throw in another one too because what if you have a bigger wound than this, or what if you just need some extra bandaging materials? That stuff's pretty cheap. You can get any first aid supply store. So I'm going to put that in for you because I believe you should have that. The brand name is Coflex. What do they call this? The adhesive self-adherent bandage. This is the kind of stuff when you get your blood drawn, they wrap it up with this. It also lets you put a little bit of pressure on there too. It's not a tourniquet, but it can apply a fair amount of pressure. So I'm really glad to see this in this first aid kit. This is good stuff. They give you one triangle bandage. Now, typically we use these when we need to sling or we need to make a splint and we secure the splint to a broken bone or fracture. However, if you want to secure like a dislocation in the arm and you really, even in the leg, if you're going to make a splint, them is usually not enough to do that. You need 2. So I'm going to put in addition to the one that comes in there, I'm going to give you one of these military trauma bandages. These things are awesome. So basically, it is a sterile dressing on the inside, a very thick kind of like one of those combine pads, and it's got this muslin bandage attached to it. So it can do a lot of this stuff almost like the Israeli bandage can do, but it doesn't have the tourniquet ability. You'd have to tie it yourself. But this can be used in that bleeding trauma situation, or you can also use it as the second bandage to make your sling and swath if you need that. Well, iodine and alcohol pads, that's great. Please do not put alcohol or iodine directly on an open bleeding wound. Number one, it's not good for the body. Number two, the person you put it on is going to smack you in the face. It's not a pleasant experience. The most common thing you're going to deal with if you're like trekking, hiking, backpacking, whatever, you're going to get scrapes and cuts. So I don't have any Band-Aids in the house that are not for children, so I didn't want to give you like SpongeBob Band-Aids or Star Wars Band-Aids, although that might have been cool. But you might want to add a few Band-Aids in here. What I am going to throw in for you is steri strips. You might see these things in use in place of stitches a lot of times in emergency rooms for things that are not super deep that need a stitch but need a little help closing. These are awesome. They're waterproof. You just kind of pinch the wound closed and put a steri strip over it, maybe 2 or 3 depending on how big it is, and it holds the skin shut really well. Notice the kit doesn't come with a light, and first aid could be done in the dark. You might need a light. If you're really getting into your first aid and you're looking for like head trauma, any kind of nervous system damage, brain injuries, you want to have a light to test pupils and stuff. But regardless, you should have a light just so you can see what you're doing. So you can see it's getting pretty full already. This one is very small. One of the Nova lights. It has a permanent on switch, so you don't have to squeeze it. A couple things I wanted to put in here that I couldn't find just, right now. Tactical pen and a little notebook. You might want to take some notes on what's going on if you record any vital signs like pulse or respirations or anything like that. You want to be able to write that stuff down. So waterproof tactical pen and a little waterproof notebook would be a great addition. I just didn't have one to put in here, or I would. Standard trauma shears. These things are really good. Things are incredibly good to have. You need to expose a wound to properly treat a wound. Seeing these things cut through pennies. I think I said that in another video. Straight through pennies and human pinkies. They're not very good after you do that, but they will do that for you if you need them to an emergency. Here's something that I'm not thrilled with. They give you a nasal pharyngeal airway. That's a pretty fancy word, isn't it? Airway is important. It's one of the most important things in emergency medical care. If you can't get air into a body, everything else you're doing is basically for nothing. But this is not a one-size-fits-all type thing. On an ambulance, we would measure the patient specifically to get the right size one. There's different diameters. When you put this in, you want to have some kind of lubrication, and this doesn't come with any. Now, blood and spit can work. The patient's blood and spit, not your own, out in the field, but it would be nice if this just came with a little package of Surgilube or something. Again, I don't have one to give you, or I would. I would recommend not using this unless you're trained and you know what you're doing. If you've taken like a first aid course that includes the insertion of an NPA, that's cool. You can actually do a lot of damage to the airway if you don't know what you're doing with one of these things. It comes in the package, so I'll send it back in the package, just be forewarned. This is a pretty decent lightweight pack. It's going to be able to hold a lot of stuff. We're putting a lot more stuff in here than it came with in the first place, and this is going to be a little full, but it's going to carry it all for us. It's still going to be fairly lightweight, so we're not worried about, a big heavy thing. And with the Molly system, it's going to let us carry that in multiple ways. This is a good kit. I would, with changes to it, I would carry this kit on my gear. I'm going to take one of these, and we're going to stick it on the Velcro over there. You can put your own patch on there when you get it. And I know you could probably buy this in a store somewhere, but this is one that was actually worn in combat. So special personal thank you to you, Skylar, for sending something into the channel and giving us a chance to review it for everybody so we can take a look at what comes in this pack. About 11 ounces of weight with all the extra stuff I put in here. If you're very weight conscious or you've already got a very full load, you might not want to have as much stuff in there. You could make do with less. I'm just not need it than need it and not have it, right? So, thank you again, Skylar, for sending this in and letting us all take a look at it. This is pretty cool. Thanks all of you guys. Again, I'll always say I appreciate all of you that are watching and giving me ideas. And there's some more people that have sent stuff in for me to review, so those are coming up. Stay tuned for more. Hope you guys like it. Go ahead, tell me what you think of this in the comments, and I'll be back again real soon.